If you've ever found yourself stuck in rigid thinking patterns, or you've struggled to adapt to new situations or find innovative solutions to challenges, this might be an indication that it's time to level up your cognitive flexibility. Now, if you just want to get better at that stuff, cognitive flexibility is still the key. And this is the key to really unlocking your resourcefulness and to improving your overall efficiency in all aspects of your life: professional, personal, social, all of it. So let's have a look at the world of cognitive flexibility. We'll dive a little bit into some of the science, and then we'll actually talk about some practical strategies so that you can put this into place, start to cultivate your cognitive abilities and really increase your cognitive flexibility. So first of all, well, what is it? Cognitive flexibility is your brain's capacity to be able to switch between different thoughts and different tasks and different perspectives and different strategies. And we do that in response to changing circumstances. So it's really about being able to adapt our thinking and generate new novel ideas and to find innovative solutions to problem. And when we strip it all back at its core, it really involves your brain's ability to reorganize neural pathways and to establish new connections, because that's what lets us break free from these ingrained patterns of thoughts. Now, we know that a lot of this tends to happen right up front in your prefrontal cortex, particularly your dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, which we use for working memory and attentional control and cognitive control, but also your anterior cingulate cortex as well. That's there for monitoring conflicts and detecting errors. But we've also got your basal ganglia joining the party as well. Why do we need that? That facilitates the inhibition of prepotent responses. So there's a little bit happening, but there always is when it comes to the brain. The main key player here is that prefrontal cortex. That's where a lot of it is in charge of, which is interesting as well, because when we get too stressed, we actually stop using some of our prefrontal cortex, and those processes revert to lesser evolved structures as well. So, although I'm going to be talking about how we can increase cognitive flexibility, it's also important to understand that things like stress and being run down and not being at our best also have an impact here. But let's look at it. Let's say, well, if I don't have cognitive flexibility, does it actually matter? Yes. Massively. It impacts your behavior, it impacts your performance, it impacts your daily functioning every single day. And if we come into contact with somebody who's got a higher level of cognitive flexibility, they're going to be better at adapting to new situations. They're going to be better at solving problems creatively. They're going to be better at adjusting their strategies and pivoting when they come up against obstacles and challenges. They're going to have a better capacity to switch between tasks efficiently. And so we want this. We want to be able to manage our cognitive load effectively. And we want to be able to avoid cognitive rigidity or stubbornness. We never want to get stuck in our old ways, or we never want to get stuck in our current ways. You're supposed to grow. Whether you like it or not, you are growing and you are developing and you are changing. You're either becoming more rigid and more stubborn, and that's becoming a lot more concrete, or you're starting to cultivate a little bit more flexibility, but you can't have both. Okay, so now we know that. How do we get better at it? How do we actually develop our cognitive flexibility? Well, first of all, embrace new and novel experiences. So expose yourself to new and diverse experiences regularly. This means, yes, stepping outside of your comfort zone, engaging in activities outside of your comfort zone, learn new skills, explore different perspectives, challenge your existing beliefs. We want to allow our brains the opportunity to forge new connections and to broaden its neural networks so that it can foster that cognitive flexibility. And the only way we forge new connections is by doing new things. That's really it, experiencing new things as well. Mindfulness is great for cognitive flexibility because it allows us to get really focused with our attention and be very present. But something that I always encourage is just seeking out alternative solutions. When we're faced with a problem, we know Occam's razor. The most simple, obvious solution is usually the right one. I fully subscribe to that. But if you want to approach things from a different way, if you really want to challenge yourself to generate multiple potential solutions, and even if we're using the Occam's razor line of thought, think about when maybe you might want different perspectives. Think about when you might want different solutions as well. There's a lot of different times, right? Even with our lessons and everything, we're always exploring new ways to have effective knowledge transfer, have effective, fast skill development as well. So just because you know something doesn't mean you should always just think that that's the right thing. So encourage divergent thinking, coming up with a lot of different ideas. And we do that by brainstorming and considering different angles and evaluating different options. And that's going to strengthen your brain's ability to flexibly switch between different problem-solving strategies as well. We talk about cognitive switching, and how do we get better at cognitive switching? We get better at it by practicing it, by engaging in it. Whatever you do is what you will get good at. So when we intentionally switch between different cognitive tasks throughout the day, we're practicing it and we're getting better at it. So this could mean moving between analytical tasks and creative tasks, or switching between this project and that project as well. It's pretty much the total opposite of task batching. It's saying, I'm going to do this thing that's using one part of my brain, and now I'm going to do this other thing that's using another part of my brain. It's not something that we want to practice in high pressure situations, but just like we're running a triathlon, we're going to practice all of those different things separately and then also together as well. So you want to get match fit, you want to get ready, and we can do that with cognitive switching exercises to stimulate our brain's flexibility and adaptability as well. Second last thing here is to embrace ambiguity and uncertainty. So practice tolerating ambiguity and uncertainty. I hate ambiguity. I'm a scientist. What we do is we figure stuff out. We understand how it works. We pull it apart. We test it. We retest it. Then we retest it again. And then somebody tells us we're wrong, so we have to do it all again, right? I hate ambiguity. But I love cognitive flexibility, right? So I need to get a little bit comfortable with tolerating ambiguity. And when you let yourself get into it, you find a little bit of freedom in it. When we start to practice tolerating ambiguity and uncertainty, what we're doing is we're deliberately exposing ourselves to situations where the outcome's uncertain or the information is incomplete. And for me, that gets me into the mode of figure it out, what's going on. But you need to take a beat. You need to take a beat and just be happy and be comfortable in that ambiguity for a second, because this is going to help to reduce anxiety, and it's going to promote cognitive flexibility by training your brain to remain open and adaptable in the face of ambiguity. So we don't, and this hurts me to even say, but we don't always have to have the answer. Yeah, that was weird to say. We always want the answer, right? But there's so much. Okay, here's a good one. If you want to know something, do you grab your phone and search it and Google it and get the answer right there and then? That's something that you should, unless you need the information right now, stop. Let yourself be in that ambiguity. Try and figure it out like the good old days before we had phones. Try and actually just sit in it for a little bit and embrace that ambiguity and that uncertainty. It is a lot of fun as well, but again, don't do it in high pressure situations. So you see a bit of a theme? We're training here. We're training our brains. This isn't match day stuff. This is the pre-work to make sure that we win the game when it comes time to do that. The last thing that I want to talk about is challenging your assumptions and your biases. We could talk about this all day. You need to identify your own cognitive biases and challenge them regularly. And if you're not challenging them, at least know what they are. Do you have a confirmation bias? Do you have a self-serving bias? Are things being framed in a way that is not actually the way that it is? What's going on? What are your assumptions and your preconceived notions, and how are they influencing what you're doing? And how do we challenge them? Seek out alternative viewpoints. You don't have to agree with anybody. In fact, how boring would that be? But you also don't need to be disrespectful. You also don't need to be dismissive of other people. And you also don't need to always be right. There are so many different ways to approach a problem. And just because I'm right doesn't mean you're wrong. We can both be right, and we can both accept that we've got different perspectives on this as well. And that's so important when it comes to beliefs, cultural norms, and all of those things. So have a think about what are your preconceived notions, and Who can you find to have that polite argument with? You know, like I know people that I can go and have very opposing viewpoints with. And it's about being able to have that conversation in a way that is enjoyable for the both of you, and it's not disrespectful, and it doesn't end up like a game of Monopoly where everybody flips the board and there's hotels all over the lounge room. Okay, so the main thing that I want to finish up on is just remember, this is an ongoing journey. Developing cognitive flexibility is an ongoing journey, and it can really, really be the game changer between you being resourceful and efficient or you not being. So understand what's going on under the surface, pick out some of those strategies that you wanted to put into place, and start to train your brain to break free from rigid thinking patterns and help it to adapt to new situations and approach challenges with a fresh perspective. And when we do that, hey, better problem solving, better in new environments, better at adapting, and it's going to make everything a lot easier. Cognitive flexibility, highly recommend. That's all for now. Bye.